The system, the system, the system. The system, the system, the system. The system, the system.
Prepare to be aware. Today I'm here, my new program called The System, where the system is about the criminal justice system. Today I have here a good friend of mine, Deshawn. He's a powerhouse in New York City. He done helped thousands of people change their life around. Formerly incarcerated, 40 years, did 20 out of that, was 22 years old when he got sentenced. He wrote 3 great books. He's an author, father, creator, motivator. He's a strong person out here in this world. First book is Conversation of a Killer. Can you talk about this?
Thank you for having me, Jemal. I wrote all 3 of these books when I was incarcerated. They were both, the basic premise of these books are just social change, personal change, and just growth and development. There's nothing negative about these books. These books have nothing, they just put out positive messages about self-improvement, social improvement, growth and development.
What encouraged you to write these books, and what was the process like?
Well, like you mentioned already, when I was early 20s, I got sentenced to 40 years to life. And on that journey, I dipped and dabbed. I was running the streets. I got into all types of trouble. When I went into the prison system, I still maintained that trouble. Just gangs and drugs, dealing, and et cetera, et cetera. And at some point, I just wasn't younger anymore. And I started to, when I look back, I got tired of going back and forth to the box, right? Loss of visits, loss of phone, being way up in the mountains. And I got to maybe Kaksaki, and I realized I was I had got the opportunity to become a facilitator for ART, which is a aggression replacement training. And I realized at around, maybe I was around 26 to 30 years old, I might have been about 30, that the brothers that were coming in were getting younger and younger. They were 16 with 60 to life, 18 with 80 to life. I was just caught in a cycle. When they were coming out of DFY, group homes, and the same broken cycles in and around the city and in and around the state. That was my motivating factor for these books.
So when you was charged, you was 22 years old at the time?
Yes.
What did you get charged with at the time? What was you charged with? What was the charges?
I was charged with murder and attempt murder.
So, I mean, how did you physically and mentally handle that? I mean, how was it in prison at the time? With 40 years, at 22 years old?
Well, back then I was still in my outlaw state of mind, so I had a chip on my shoulder. It really didn't faze me. It sounds crazy, but I was really desensitized. I didn't really think about the time, because for me it was all part of the game. When I say the game, it was the streets, how you learn. The murderers, the robbers, the drug traffickers, the pimps, the prostitutes, the con men, the corrupt cops. That's what I knew. I kind of expected that. So when I went to the system, it was more the same for me. I just try to adapt to it, become manipulative, more manipulative, and just was bent on more aggression and just surviving.
So now the court's reduced your sentence. How did that process come about?
Well, I was a few years into my sentence. I had some public defenders that I used to keep in contact with, but some new laws had came out basically that, basically in a nutshell, it was illegal sentencing. Like they were sentencing me with too many theories of murder and things of that nature. And just I had court issues that were never rectified at court, with witnesses, testimonies, and things of that nature. And that was what led me to being here today with you.
So where you from? Where you from in the city?
I was born in Mount Vernon, New York. I live in the Bronx currently. Well, I should say I live in Brooklyn. I go back and forth. I'm just in and around the city. 2 jobs. Currently I work at the Fortune Society. Shout out to Fortune. Their whole program is built on changing people's lives as well. So it just aligned with my own mission. I thought it was perfect. It was like a perfect job or position to have to do what my passion is. It lines up with the people's purpose.
So how was your childhood growing up? And would you say the environment played a role in what you've been through? Things you did?
Of course, your environment has, to some degree, always has an impact on what you go through and your decisions you make. My mother was a foster kid. She grew up in group homes and stuff. She never knew her father, barely knew her mother. My father was, he's from Harlem. He was, an older man. We didn't really click up until I was a teenager. They were both strung out on drugs, both strung out on heroin. And, me, my sister, and brothers, we just had to figure it out.
So how was you when you first started getting in trouble? How was you at the time?
I don't know. I probably like hardcore trouble, maybe like 10, 11. Start off with things like stealing bikes and fights on the block.
So what led you into life of crime?
I don't think anything really leads you into a life of crime when your poverty is crime and you're from poverty. So if your whole area is infested with crime, it's like saying, like, what led you to poverty? I can't tell. It was just the opportunities were there. There were people in the neighborhood that had love for me, and they just gave me the opportunities they had, whether it was selling crack or, weed or guns. They just gave me whatever I needed to survive in the neighborhoods that we were in.
So when you came out, did you have a support system when you was released from prison? Was there a support system out here for you?
I had some people that was ride with me. I had a woman who, I had known before I went to prison. She appeared, showed up, held me down, and I paroled to her address.
So for young men in unstable environments, how do you recommend them overcome pressures around them in today's world?
Man, it's hard for anybody. It's hard for somebody who has their self together to maintain a straight head, right? You gotta stay positive. You gotta hold yourself accountable. You gotta get good mentors. You know what I'm saying? Coming from mentors are crucial out here, and there's just not enough of them, right? And in the street, we have mentors, but we have negative mentors that don't necessarily mean to be negative, but to reiterate, they just showing us what they know. Right? If my father was a dentist or a doctor, he would show me the way to be a dentist or a doctor or something along those lines. So it's just about people like us, you and I, becoming better role models and mentors for those that follow us. We have to be the change that we want to see.
So now, when you was coming up in the streets, you got involved in a gang, but before that, you was out there just doing what you was doing, and then you got involved in a gang. What made you get involved in a gang at the time?
Man, I was still had that outlaw mindset, and I'm from the old New York, so I just saw the transition into gang life. I necessarily didn't need it, but there was a lot of dudes when I was still scrambling, and they was getting locked up, and they was coming home blood, and they was talking about these different things. It really was like a non-factor to me because me, I was just bent on getting money, so gang life really wasn't that important to me because I was still getting in crime, holding guns, and doing whatever I had to do out here. But I guess it was just more of an experience and curiosity that led me into gang life more than anything.
So tell me one experience you went through that made you want to make a change in life and do better for yourself.
One clear-cut example of change, and I heard, shout out to my guy Suave Hector. He just came home, and he said the same exact thing, and I put it in my book. I just realized one day I didn't want to die in prison, or if I died in prison, I didn't want to die a bad guy, because all the things I was caught up in were genuinely not me, right? When you're a young kid, man, you're just trying to find yourself, find out where you fit in, right? You might try Christianity, you might become a Muslim, you might become a gang member, right? All these different things that'll help you find out who you are, right? And if you don't have anybody teaching you who you are, you learn the hard way through experience, right? So more or less along those lines, that's what happened for me, and I started to realize certain things about myself. You know, they starting to say that the child mind and the brain isn't fully developed till around you're 25 years old. Maybe sometime after that, I just start seeing things a little clearly. I can't wholeheartedly say that was my brain development, but that might be it. I gotta go with that theory, but I knew I needed to make some hard choices and do a good transformation.
So this is another book, one of your books, 12 Paths to Power, right? Tell us something about this book right here that you wrote, and what made you write this book at the time when you wrote it.
Well, that book right there, 12 Paths to Power, was key for me. That was the second book I wrote. I wrote them in succession. I wrote No More Mistakes. I wrote 12 Paths to Power, and then I wrote Conversation with a Killer. And I wrote 12 Paths to Power with the mindset of just how does one get to know themselves. It was about self-improvement. See, a lot of us are out here, but we never truly know ourselves. And that's what leads us into a lot of trouble, right? A lot of us don't want to get in fights, and we don't like to cause trouble, but we act in concert because that's what we see other people around us doing, and we feel like in order to fit in or go into the trends of the time that this is what we got to do, and this is stuff. So this book was aimed at just really knowing how to take ownership of your own life, right, and really discovering who you are, what your true likes and what your true nature is. And most people are beautiful people and kind people and good people. So it's more along the lines of help a person discover the beauty in themselves.
Now, No More Mistakes. This is one of my favorite books, actually. I read this 2 times. You want to tell somebody this book, No More Mistakes? I mean, because this is a great book. And
No More Mistakes. That was my first book. And what inspired me to write that, because, like I said, we was just a bunch of misled youth, and we just didn't have the manuscript or the instruction on how to live and comport in jail or in society. So I sat back and I saw how they already have beds for us before you even get into the system. Whether, you're coming out of detention for youth or you're coming out of group homes, they already got this calculated based on your grade point average in 2nd grade if you're gonna go to jail or not, believe it or not, right? But this book was basically served as a guide or a crutch for kids who didn't have that parent or have that mentor, or how you should carry and conduct yourself, how to move around, just to navigate society without being hurt or hurting someone else, and basically maximizing your full potential.
You a powerhouse out here in New York, and you well known and liked by a lot of people from the streets and also from regular society. And basically you help thousands of people, and you work at Fortune Society also. Can you tell us what's that like, working at Fortune Society?
Working at Fortune is a spectacular experience, and it's personal to me because as a system practice in person, I was able to come home, and that wasn't my first job. I was able to earn my degrees. I got a associate's and a bachelor's, and just had to cultivate my mind. But it aligned with the mission of helping people, especially people that are in the system. Because, if you come home after 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you really don't have a direction. New York and the community that you knew is not the same as it was before you left. You understand where I'm coming from? So it gives me the opportunity to give back to the community in a way where it can help bring down recidivism, and just help the youth out here. So in a nutshell, it's just about bringing down recidivism and making sure brothers and sisters, when they come home, have the resources that they need to survive out here, and just giving them the spiritual hope and the mental confidence that they need to move around the city and let them know that they're not alone.
That's good. I mean, so tell us about Deshawn Kenner as a person.
Man, Deshawn Kenner as a person, this is a complex individual, right? There's one part of me that's street, but I'm also an academic. I'm also very spiritual, right? I'm experienced, I'm militant, right? I'm a father, I'm very loving, I'm kind. There's just so many dimensions of myself that I deal with. That I'm always learning and growing, and that's what I'm caught up with. That's Deshawn. I'm just a being. I'm a human being having an experience here in this world.
So you're also a public speaker. I mean, you want to tell us about that? I mean, your public speaking experience and things you have done and people motivated in life.
I don't. I've been. I've had the privilege of working with certain organizations, like shout out to South Bronx Community Connection, Strong Youth, Fortune. I go into Rikers, and we have, shout out to Red Hook, Karen Blondell, the tenant association leader down Red Hook Housing. I used to go down there and do volunteer work and just talk to the youth, and we bring out food and books and we just mingle. We talk about life problems and issues, which I probably got to get back to at some time. But right now, I've just been focused on completing my master's degree in public administration, and possibly going into a doctoral program for clinical psychology, maybe. But these are the things that I've been into. So I'm always growing. I'm learning about relationships. Before I went in, and I tell brothers all the time, the first thing you should not do when you come home, if you have, and is trying to jump into a romantic relationship with a partner, right? Especially for me, I didn't have like really good teenage love romances before I went in. I was in the streets. I was worried about making money, and I was just running wild. So post incarceration, that's been one of my I wouldn't say challenges or goals or struggles, but that's just been one of my most recent experiences. Just how to love a partner correctly, right? How to love myself correctly. How to take care of it's the balance. So I'm still growing and working on these different areas of my life.
So you got like programs to the youth that you give. I mean, tell us something about the programs you give for the youth. How it helps them out.
Definitely based on my books. They've been distributed in and around the city with counselors and teachers and actually corrections as well. I was notified that they use all three of my books for, just study on Rikers, which is a beautiful thing. But I have the books, but I've also created worksheets, and I might create a book as well on just that a person could write in, an individual, a kid, a young adult, or an adult, because they can go from 10 to 80 years old, whatever you need, where I ask certain questions and you can respond ever how you want to respond to these situations based on the readings that I provide in these books, the jewels or the chapters, etc., etc. So those, and I do accountability workshops, decision making, problem solving, because sometimes critical thinking is like our kids, and I always keep them first. Our children just don't know how to make proper decisions at times, especially in high toxic areas or high risk areas, right, where there's no help. So anything could be a crisis situation for them, anything, right? So I try to just go into those. I'm going to start working on bringing this message more into schools, charter, public schools, other prisons in the state, maybe other states as well.
So now now as you're living on this side, of the world of life, what is the difference between when you was in corrections in a system and out here in society and doing the right thing? What's your experience now like compared to back then?
Well, my mindset has shifted definitely. The same challenges still exist. Community-wide, they got a little better. They have a little bit more exposure to the problems that are going on in the system, so to speak. We're talking about like currently with Robert Brooks, the community and society was given a small, strong glimpse into the life of a prisoner that goes on a daily basis, right? And that was extreme. They saw a murder happen while the man was cuffed, and they just pummeled them. But that doesn't even show the everyday microaggressions that we suffer behind the wall. Just things like frivolous tickets, tier 1, 2, and 3 that they make you pay $5 for. So they'll write a ticket that's a lie, and essentially, and then they'll make you pay for it. And it runs just like the court system out here. Everybody cops out. Just like we go to court 9 times out of 10, you go in there and cop out. You go to these tier hearings in front of these lieutenants and captains, and you cop out the same. You get $5 and loss of rec and 25 days keep lock or box time. You know, it's the same system on either side of the wall. It's about so you don't see that, you know. But I'm glad they got to see the extreme. But there's more of that microaggression happening on a daily basis that I'm sure has not slowed down at all.
So now, when you was incarcerated, did you have any kind of experience like that? You know, sort from staff, things like that. I mean,
Nah, I never was beat up by the police. I'm not gonna say that. You know, like I said, when I went in, the same principles that I use in the street, I learned to apply them to jail. So I learned how to navigate and just like really understood. I really understood where I was at, and I understood the stakes were always high. If you wasn't ready to go with the police or certain things, you wasn't going to address it properly. I learned to just leave them alone, or they stayed away from me. I stayed away from them. Or if I had a problem, I addressed them like a man. I didn't wait till there were other men around or other police, other COs around. I went to them alone, and I had that conversation with them about, you know, how we need to treat each other.
so now, what was one of the worst things you may have seen at the time when you was incarcerated?
I don't know. It's too many incidents to say what I seen. I seen police kill inmates. I seen inmates kill inmates. Right? So, like, this is a terrible situation. Everybody's violent. Inmate population is violent on inmates. They violent on police. Police are violent on inmates. Like, so it's just like it's no one thing. I seen do. You got police. You have the women lying on you. You feel like I call them Emmett Till tickets. She could say that you looked at her, the nurse, the CO, the female CO. So yo, he looked at me. He said something to me. Walked by. You got 10 of them on you, beating you up and kicking your teeth out your mouth. You just don't know. So there's too many points of reference for violence and discrimination and oppression. I tell people, like I said in my book, I didn't really experience or understand the full effects of racism until I went to prison. Right? They had COs that had babies with nooses around their neck on their arms. The way they talk was different, and you know you really couldn't do anything about it. It's not something that you could address. And there were prisoners, I would say, there were men, whether they were Black Panthers or some, you know, gang related, that they just addressed the police all the time. You know what I mean? And they had a harder strong, they had a harder bed. I was still an outlaw. I didn't really go in a freedom fighter. I can't say I went in like a Black Panther, like I was Huey P. Newton. I was still just learning how to navigate the system from the perspective of an outlaw until I made that change. And when I made that change and the reflection that I have now is different.
I mean, so how you feel about now? How life is now? How does it feel? How to be, you know, from wrong
Life
to right?
is good. Life is good, but it's an ongoing struggle. Every day is a struggle. Like just like somebody that says they're a recovering addict, right? You're a recovering felon. You was in the streets. You still have to. I still have to check myself every day. Like I can't approach certain situations in the manner that I would have previously. It just doesn't work that way, right? Right. Mental illness is real, right? A lot of people that out here are under duress. The whole city is stressed out right now. So everybody, you may be getting to a conflict with somebody who's going through something, while you're going through something. It can't be a positive end result. So I have to stay mindful of that.
It's good. You know, so I mean, so basically today's life, your day-to-day operation, I mean, what would you say it's like? I mean, waking up in the morning, you know, going to work, helping the others out. 'Cause I heard a lot of good things about you, and people speak highly of you. And you actually a quiet powerhouse here in New York.
Thank you. It's good, man. I've been married. I have children. You know, marriage isn't always, you know, I would say it's something that, you know, I'm learning to be. That's why I say, if you come home, don't just jump into these relationships. I'm telling you from experience. You got to learn how to love these women, especially if they've already been out here and they've had relationships. They have a certain way they want to be treated. And if you can't treat them, the worst thing you can do is lie to a woman about who you are or what type of relationship you're willing to commit to. Whoever you are, you might as well be that and exude that the whole time. Anything, because the first time you start being who you say you are, or that little image you just put up, that's the first time she can call you a liar or start looking at you differently. Right? So if you're not ready for a cold, committed relationship, don't promise that, don't act that. Worry about getting yourself together, elevating your mind, elevating your spirit, right? And just learning more.
So now, somebody that's going through trouble or coming out of prison right now, or want to help somebody else, what would you tell them right now? What could they do to possibly help others or help themselves and better themselves, better their situation?
First thing I would tell them is just anybody that you come in contact with, just be kind to that person. We can't change what's going on 50 blocks from here, or on Ukraine, or in Russia, or Africa, but you can change your community just by how you comport with the people around you. You treat them well as much as you can. You know you don't bring harm to others. And if you can get with other organizations, like you have very pretty good organizations here in New York. You have, to reiterate, you have Fortune Society, you have Osborne, you have Exodus, you have FedCap, you have CEO, you have TMK, Tailor Made for Kings. You have what's the brother that's in East New York? Man Up, right? They're New York City is teeming with organizations. You have youth shelter network in Westchester, but New York City and surrounding, you got strong youth in Long Island. The New York City area is teeming with people that want to give back to the community. It's not going to be hard to hook up with some people that want to make change, and you can start your own coalition. You don't need to jump on a coalition. You can start your own coalition. Be proactive. Right? You can start a national one right here in the city, but based on laws and policies. Get into advocacy work. Think about going to Albany. Get to know your legislators, your city councilmen, your assemblymen and women, your senators, right? Legislation season is upon us. Everybody in New York will be converging on Albany, right? For policies like communities, not cages, right? The right to remain silent, right? Fair housing, right? Second chance, right? Get into advocacy, right? Change these laws. See how they do it. At one time, they would give you 50 years for marijuana. Now it's not even a disappearance ticket. But that's a testimony to the power of the people, right? Speak up.
So now, somebody's coming home from prison. How can they help themselves? Whether it's find a job or entrepreneurship, what would you recommend for somebody coming out?
If you're in the New York City area, I always going to recommend that you show up at Fortune Society. If you did time out here, whether I'm there or not, the mission remains the same, right? They're going to help you. We build people, not prisons. I love that creed. That's what you're going to do. You come to a place like that, and you'll come and get with a community. And we like to refer to Fortune and places of the like as healing spaces where you can begin to heal. Because the reality is, if you came out of a traumatic environment, a toxic environment, they throw you in prison. What you see now is a hyper-toxic environment, and then you get put right back into the community that's still toxic. You gotta ask yourself, then, where was the healing? At what point and what period did you get to heal? It takes a lot for you to be resilient to heal yourself, right? Some people, unfortunately, don't have the IQ for it, and some people don't have the emotional intelligence or the adaptability quotient for it, because you have to be able to adapt, right? So that's what I would say there. You in New York area, New York City area, find something near you like Fortune. In Westchester, they have 914 United. In Long Island, they got Strong Youth, right? Youth Shelter Network, Mount Vernon. Check them out and go from there.
Now, you got a lot of people that be watching this program and they never been part of the system, the criminal justice system that is, right? They know nothing about it and look at things different than you may look at things, right? What would you tell them?
You can still chip in, because y'all know, you all know right from wrong. And even if you haven't been directly impacted, you probably know somebody who's been impacted. And if you don't know somebody that's been impacted and you just been reading and seeing what's going on, you know things aren't right. So you might just want to come together with the community just to make things right. Do it from the moral sense of just wanting to make things right for the community. Equality, justice, right?
How can people find your books?
You can find my books on Amazon. You can just Google my name, Deshawn Kenner, Deshawn, Kenner, Kenner. I'm also on LinkedIn under that same name, and I'm also on Instagram, same name, Deshawn Kenner.
You often want to assemble a board of like.
Anything you want to say to people before we leave?
Be kind to one another. If you need help, tell someone you need help. There's nothing wrong with going through something. Everybody's going through something. Come down to Fortune, and if I'm not gonna, if you need to reach out to me, you just want to talk to me, like I said, you can reach me on one of those different venues, my LinkedIn, my Instagram. You can shoot me, man. You can shoot me an email at deshawn.kenner@gmail.com. Same name, DESHAWN.Kenner, KENNER@gmail.com. You know, I'm available for speakings, for whatever positive you need me for. Just get with me.
Thank you today for watching my new program called The System with my powerhouse right here, Deshawn Kenner. And I hope somebody was touched by this, learned something from this, educated from this, and we'll see you soon.
And just remember, the ultimate goal of this show and what we do as a community is to dismantle the criminal justice system. We want to shut down prison and the need for mass policing.
Have a good day.
The system. It confines us. It does not define us.
We'll see you on our next episode. Stay tuned.